Hey, how are we doing? We are back at PAG Physique Architect Gyms, and I have two guests with me today, which I'm so excited about. I have the lovely Justine and I have the lovely Em, which most of you have hopefully listened to or seen from socials from the last pod we did. So today is a massive topic that actually I've had loads of questions about throughout my journey, not as much recently since being in off season, but post show or reversing, all of that subject. So obviously after competing, it's quite a phase to come out of. And obviously we've all been through experiences. We all did last season. And obviously Justine has competed twice before that as well. So we're just going to talk a little bit about our experiences and obviously things like that we can give to you guys that might be helpful. I know a lot of people out there who do listen are competing this year, some for the first time, some again, so it just might be useful for you. So yeah, here we go. And I think I want to say to start with that there's no right or wrong post-show. Now, I don't know what you guys, if you have any starting points that you want to start with that, of being, you just don't really know until you get into it or come out of it, shall I say.
It's not especially for your first time. Like your first time, you have no idea what you're walking into.
No.
Everything's new. Everything's unknown territory. Like I know I found that out because after the show I was like, leave me alone.
Yeah.
I didn't want to talk to anyone. I buggered off to Wales for a week.
That's quite peaceful.
And I was just like, I'm out. See you later. I'm not a bodybuilder for the rest of the week. And then it was like 2 days and I was already back in the gym and I was like, yeah, let's go.
Yeah. I think it's overwhelming because as well from a lot of people talk about post-show, obviously nutrition wise, but actually I think it's quite overwhelming in itself because you work for what, like 20, 30 weeks up to this one day. And then it's suddenly over and you're like, what? Do I just go back to work? Is everything normal? Like, it's quite strange. I don't know how you found with that. Because Justine's, obviously, you've done 3 seasons?
3 seasons, yeah.
And they've all been so different.
Wildly different. And I mean, that's for a multitude of reasons. I've worked with different coaches. My first 2 preps, obviously, I had a different coach. My most recent prep, I had Amy. So it's their approach to that has been a little bit different. Yeah. So it's meant maybe the outcome for my post show has been a little bit different every time. But I think it's also just experience. Like my first show, I guess, was kind of like a bit of a blur. Like now thinking back on it, I was kind of like wrapped up in the excitement of it. I didn't want to make any mistakes. Yeah. So it kind of felt like I smashed it. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But
you did.
It went well. And I mean, it was quite a successful first season for me. And I was really, really pleased with how it went. But sort of my second prep was totally different. But then there was so many factors within that prep that changed the prep.
And the process can really test you in so many ways. Like, even across like whether like niggles or injuries come up or illnesses, like you think even if you fall ill for a tiny bit. I remember right at the start of mine, I had COVID and I was like, it was weeks and weeks and weeks out, but it still really nudged my brain. And I was like, oh my God, what am I going to do? I can't do this. I can't do that. Because you literally, like, every second in the gym or every meal you have is like sacred to the process.
Yeah.
Or you feel like that anyway. But did you have any, like, across the way, like anything that cropped up that you were like...
Well, I mean, there was a prolific one that John knows very well because he was the person I went to when it all happened. But I was sick, like really sick, like about 6 weeks out. And I just decided to not tell my coach, really. And I just kept working and I just kept pushing through it. And I think one time I was literally coughing up my guts in the middle of the gym. And John just came down and he was like, if you don't go home, I'm taking you home. And he was like, and you're not stepping foot in the gym until that cough goes away. And I was like, but I can't, I'm 6 weeks out. And he was like, Emily, you're partially dying. I was like, you need to go and rest and recover. And it was also when I actually got to learn that regardless, like especially like post-show, rest and recovery is such a big thing because it's not only your physical body that suffers. I mean, you know that I ruptured my Achilles, so obviously my legs are usually a problem, unfortunately, but the lactic acid after the show took about 3-4 days to move.
I
and it
really
was so
struggled with my
painful.
calves.
Yeah. Oh my! Just standing in heels all day.
couldn't.
How girls do it?
Classic.
Oh.
And I didn't realise, and it's why 100% I have loads of calves in my programme now. Because John said, I was like, why do I have calves? I did never have calves before. And then he said, what hurt you after show day? And I was like, I'll be quiet now. But oh my God, it was really hard to walk. Nothing else. Obviously, you're just exhausted, but you also got so much adrenaline. Like, it's like a massive come down, but you're on such a high the day after, and you've got a bit of freedom. You can see family and friends. Like, I took the day off after the shows because I was like, there is no way I can cope.
I did not.
Because then you went away.
The day after, I literally went to sleep at 3 a.m. I woke up at 5 a.m., drove to Birmingham for a photo shoot, then drove to Wales after that. All in a day, post-show.
Great time. Loads of recovery.
Anyone who knows me personally is not surprised.
No,
No,
definitely not.
No, not at all. And did you take some time off as well?
So obviously my most recent season I did 3 shows.
Yeah.
My first 2 I didn't take any time off. Purely because I was literally like,
Yours were quite
they
close
were
together.
quite close together, back to back pretty much. So as soon as I finished one show, I had, I think, 2 weeks until my next show. So it was very much just, I mean,
Pushing
first day
through.
back, I didn't have cardio necessarily, but I still had to train. I had to jump back on plan. And then
That is
I
hard.
think it was like my second and third show, peak weeks were back to back. So I literally didn't stop.
remember that.
Yeah. So I had
remember
like a
that.
little refeed after my show, like had a really nice feed, and then it was literally straight back next day. So yeah, and then straight back into it. So
I bet you felt like a wall. Like,
so by the time that last one was over, I think I was just so ready. I was like, I'm done with this season.
Yeah.
So it just, it was nice sort of coming off the back of that last show, because I knew then like all the hard work was done, and
yeah.
I could.
And the thing is,
eat.
you can just,
I could eat.
I mean, that's what I found really weird, because obviously I unintentionally decided to put 2 shows back to back, day by day,
you
which
did.
was quite
It was a fun
something.
adventure.
It was a fun adventure. It was the best time. But it was really hard because everyone was like, oh my God, you can eat afterwards. And I was like, well, no, I can't, because I have to be like, I have to get back up on stage the next day. Obviously, it was slightly different for a week. So like knowing I could eat, a little bit more in 2 days rather than 1. But I remember I got back to John and Rachel's, and he was like, oh, you can have some cheese on your mince. And I was like, oh. I was like, that'll do. He was like, you need some more fats in you. But I think like post-show is such a whirlwind, and you're in such a little bubble on that entire day. Like, we had the best day after that.
Oh, yeah.
After WMBF. We had
Oh,
a
yeah.
pizza and pasta party afterwards.
Yeah.
Oh my
That
God,
was
I
so
remember
good.
that.
I
was
made
a
myself sick.
celebration.
I ate a 14-inch pizza in about 7 minutes. And then wondered why my belly hurt.
And I think that's one of the main things with post-show that people always have questions about is, like, how you think about food, and it does shift. Like, no matter what anyone says, your food focus is going to shift when you can't have anything indulgent at all for like pretty much the entirety of your prep, and even refeeds throughout prep. I don't know about you guys, but they're not the most, they're refeeds. Refeed to an off plan is very different in my eyes. Like,
That's one thing I didn't have in my entirety of my prep. I never had a refeed.
refeed.
I just had the same things for 20 weeks, and it just got less and less and less.
And I think as well, having the same things, obviously you were on meal plan as well.
Yeah.
We were
Yeah.
on meal
Yeah,
plans.
we're all meal plans. Now I'm on macros,
Macros,
but
yeah.
before I was on just
And I
strictly.
think having the same thing, obviously it's got its benefits, you don't have to think. And for prep, it's got its purpose, but you get bored.
Yeah.
And then that's when you start fantasizing about everything else, and you always see like everyone's feed is like food. And what was like your thing that you
Oh, cardio was watching people eat.
Oh,
Like,
Emily.
Yeah, like one of those the food challenges.
Yeah.
So it's like a 28-inch pizza or a 14-foot hot dog or something like that. That was me on cardio. And you know what? It's really weird when you're in a commercial gym because
Yeah.
everyone's just looking over your shoulder like, I don't think she's okay. And I'm
wish
just there
I was
like,
that
oh
person.
my God.
I think my thing was always like, if someone put like cookie box, I'd be like, I'd always say to everyone else, be like, oh my God, look how nice this looks.
Yeah.
This looks really nice. But I wasn't like, and I also watched, what was that cake program that it's like, if it's cake or not?
Oh, is it cake?
Is it cake? Yeah. I
Oh my
watched that.
gosh.
That was quite good.
That's so good.
But it's really weird how your brain just suddenly rewires to those things. Did you have anything?
Not this prep. Definitely my first two preps.
First two.
But I made like a vow to myself at the beginning of my most recent prep that I wasn't gonna indulge in a lot of food related thoughts. And I actually did notice this most recent prep just gone, I was actually a lot less food focused compared to previous preps. And I think a lot of that was just not engaging in posts that had food in them. Because my first prep, I would save recipe after recipe, like saying to myself that as soon as I get off prep, I'm going to bake this. I think I baked maybe 2 of the like 70 plus recipes that I saved. But I made a vow to myself on this prep that I wasn't going to do that. And it made such a difference because I didn't then come off prep and think I didn't have loads of food, for one, just hoarded in my house. But I also was like, no, actually, like I don't need to bake a tray bake of cookies and all this other stuff. Exactly.
I think I learned very similarly. Obviously, I didn't do a stage prep before that, but obviously with my shoot preps, each of them were different coming out of it, and my food focus was entirely different as well. And I did feel better about it because I didn't hoard anything, like I didn't have anything back. But it's so weird, like there is no right or wrong in terms of how you feel about things. Like this is all normal, like, which I 100% want to highlight, because I think people keep things like it's okay to have those thoughts, obviously, and even if you do have things that you hold back. I remember I did keep an Easter egg, but that's because I wanted it, like, and I just used it in my oats. But it's very normal to not have something to then want it, like, which is exactly 100%. Why we say in coaching, don't hold back or restrict entirely, because it's going to make you want that thing even more and binge on it. But did you have anything? You had those sour strip things? Was it those?
Yeah, my big box of things. Oh my God. So someone bought me, it was like 44 protein bars of the new ones, the Oreo and the lemon cheesecake ones, 10 bags of sour strips, which, if you know, sour strips are amazing. And then these like fit bake sort of like doughy things. Honestly, I think
it's hard when people buy stuff for you as well. Mm-hmm. Like, it's really hard to communicate that, because people buy stuff and it's like, oh, this is for after show, and you're like, yeah, take it back.
And I really like the fact that they went for protein bars and it was all protein cakes, except for the sour strips. The sour strips were 100% me. But like everything else, I was like, I really appreciate that. But who the heck is going to go through 44 protein bars?
It's a lot. That's a lot.
I mean, I did.
This will last you.
Yeah. They're never going to go to waste. And I think that's the biggest shift I had from even some of my shoot preps was that food's not going anywhere.
Yeah.
Like, even if you want, like, I wrote quite a few restaurants down, and I'm still making my way through it. But even afterwards, I was like, well, the restaurant isn't going anywhere unless it's being closed down. Like, I can still go and enjoy those lovely meals. It did take some time. Like, obviously, when I came out of show, I was like always excited for off plan. Like, and that took a long time to come away from for me. But it's such an adjustment coming out of it. I think it took me like 14 weeks to actually feel, okay, yeah, we're good. Yeah. I'm not as food focused.
I think we forget a lot of the time as well that there's so much going on, like, physiologically as well. Like, your hormones are all over the place, which is going to wreak havoc on your hunger and how you're feeling and how satiated you feel a lot of the time. And I think we forget that because we get so caught up in the mindset side of things.
Yeah.
That you just forget that this is literally a natural response to a hardcore diet for however long you've been doing it. Yeah. So I think, trying to remind yourself of that constantly is going to be a huge help when you're coming out the other side of it, because literally everyone goes through it.
Yeah. And it's like the survival mode. It's something 100%. That I talk about a lot. Like, it's you're literally putting yourself in a survival mode to get down to stage lean. Mm-hmm. I don't think anyone who has ever not gone down to stage lean will understand what that means until you are literally walking upstairs, still doing the same intensity that you were doing 12 weeks out. with no carbs, no fat, you literally, your clothes are hanging off you, you feel depleted, you feel flat, because that's what you run into.
Yeah.
And then when you get on the other side of it, and suddenly it's like, you can have that now.
Yeah.
And you're just like, dang it.
And I think it's like, it's so hard because it feels so good to have the treats and go on those nice meals, and it feels amazing. But equally, it feels really on the flip side of that as well, because you're like, well, because you don't really fully know, because you haven't readjusted goals, so you don't fully know what you're working towards because you're coming out of this phase. It's really confusing.
So confusing.
And I think the hardest thing for me, I don't know about you guys, obviously body image hugely comes into it. You see yourself at the most peeled version of you, and you feel freaking good about it, like, let's not lie. So it's really hard. Like, I remember coming into the gym thinking other people are gonna know what I've eaten just from what I look like, and I was like, what the hell is going on up here? Like, I was like, no, that they don't care. They're not gonna judge you for like eating. It was weird. I don't know whether anyone else had those thoughts or anything like that, but it's really hard. Like, you feel you're not lean, you're not pushing into a growth phase, you're like in this fluffy meh. I hated it for a long time, but
I think it was a little bit different for me, just for the sense that I'm so freaking tall.
Em's got legs for days.
Yeah, I mean, because it's like, I mean, I reverse terribly, and I've never lied about that. I ate a lot for a long period of time, and not good stuff. And I'm open and honest about that, and I'm just kind of like, yeah, I did it. And you know why I did it? It's like, because I just wanted to.
Yeah.
You know, like, there's no excuse for it. I just did it. But then also at the same point, it wasn't until about 4 months in that anyone could even notice. Because I'm so lean. Like,
Yeah.
I can lose weight so easily. My body is lean bean. That's it. And it just likes being lean. So I have to eat a lot for it to show anything, which John is really enjoying in this book. Because he's like, I keep feeding you and you're not getting bigger. And I'm like, welcome to my life.
It's a good problem to have. But also a hard one. And I think, yeah, it's just really hard to understand how your composition is going to change, because you're so used to, like, you chase lines, you know what you're seeing. Coming into off season, it's the opposite, and it's the shape and the pumps and the fueling and how you're feeling in sessions and training and strength. That's what you chase. Like, you don't. Whereas in prep, like, you know what direction it's going to go in. Yeah. How did you feel coming out of it in terms of, like, how you felt about yourself? Like, did you struggle? Because you didn't, like, food-wise, you were like, oh, I'm still
I was
not
so
hungry.
unbothered by food
For ages.
coming out of this show, which was bizarre for me, because previously coming out of shows I have binged.
Yeah.
And for this one, I think a lot of it as well was taking completely different, like, nutritional approaches. I had a different coach.
Yeah.
So we were carb cycling, we were refeeding regularly. I didn't feel really hungry on prep. So I think actually, like, coming out of show, I didn't have that, like, urge, you know, where that, like, undying need to fill my stomach. I just didn't have it. And I even noticed as well with, like, a lot of my post-show meals, like, I was quite sensible about it. I just ate till I was full, and I didn't take it too far. Whereas I have done previously and made myself quite unwell as a result. But yeah, I would say now, because I mean, I'm only 16, 17 weeks post-show at the moment. So for me, I still feel like that's quite fresh. I mean, that's
It's
only
still quite a post-show fit,
just under 4 months. And I am now at a point where I feel uncomfortable.
Okay.
So it's a bit of a weird one. Like, I am someone who struggles to push food just because I struggle to grow. But I
hard.
also,
like, I'd argue growing's harder than prepping.
it's so difficult.
Like, when you're not hungry, you have no, like, you just got to keep going. Like, whereas, like, we know the feeling, we know we're going to be a bit hungry during prep.
Yeah.
Like,
But it's so
you also see
normalised.
the results.
yeah.
It's like, it's such a, like, we're growing, you kind of, like, at where we're at now, we've grown a little bit, now we're going to cut back a little bit, and then we're going to grow a bit, and then cut back a little bit.
And you constantly seeing those
And you can't
composition
really
shifts.
see anything.
No.
I mean, I've lost 2 kilograms in 2 weeks, and I'm just kind of like, where?
Show me.
Yeah.
Because my check-in photos don't look that different.
And you want to look shredded, right? Because it's like...
But also, the great thing is what I love about John is John's like, this is fantastic. And I'm like, where?
What are you seeing that I'm not?
And I think, like, your coach is everything to swear by. I mean, I found it really weird when I was coming out of it because nothing was satisfying me. Mm-hmm. I had my structure, I kept it exactly, but the reason my food focus was so high coming out of the show, I didn't listen to it, I flipping wanted to, was because everything I was eating wasn't touching the sides. Like, I was starving. Whole prep wasn't hungry. I knew what I was doing. Like, I knew, like, I was come out of it. I'm like, what? Oh, I'm starving.
I'm dying.
And that's when it took that 14 weeks. And by that point, hormones had settled. It's probably a similar point to where you're feeling now. Hormones had settled. I was, okay, like, food focus just shifted. I wasn't hungry, like, and everything kind of changed. And obviously I went away for my birthday and I just had a break for 10 days, didn't train, like, just ate sensibly, but had some nice times, had a few drinks or whatever. And then I came back and everything felt completely different. Mm-hmm. And I think sometimes when you actually come away from it entirely, it shifts where your mindset's at as well.
I agree with that.
100%. You need to decompress. And then there needs to be a point in that reverse, or even that short period that is post-show, you need to have some kind of off button. It's so important. Even if it's a step away from training or a step away from your meal plan, you need to do something that's for you.
Yeah.
I guess in a way it's what you're saying when you said about physiology and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Psychology, physiology, physically, all the P's.
All
You know, like, all of those things go hand in hand with each other. Like, a lot of people are like, they're like, your mindset is amazing. And I was like, you should have seen my mindset post-show. It was in the bin. Because I was literally like, I just didn't listen to it. Like, I can be disciplined.
And that's the thing. Your body's going to tell you so many different things to what your mind wants to do. Mm-hmm. And it's communicating it as well. I cannot, like, express enough from my own experience. It's telling your coach what the hell's going on. Because you were coming, it was very different for you because you were in the process of sort of, you were almost thinking about coming over to, like, it was hard.
It was odd for me because I'm my own worst enemy. So obviously my previous coach, the one that I did do the prep with, I love him dearly. He's one of my best friends. But I am not good telling people that I'm not good. Period.
Yeah.
And I was just like, I can't do
this. It
this.
feels vulnerable as well.
But then Warren was obviously just trying to talk to me, and I was like, I told you to leave me alone. And I was like, and because you're going against that, I'm gonna further stick you in the corner.
Yeah.
Which is my own thing. That's got nothing to do with him. He was doing exactly what he was meant to do as a coach. And then I would reach out to other people and just be like, oh, I'm just not feeling 100%.
Playing it off.
Yeah. When I'm there, literally sat there, like, absolutely killing myself for food, just being like, because you can't even, I can't blame it on my parents, I can't blame it on the situation I was in, because my mum was just kind of like, well, what can you eat? And I was like, everything.
It's no limit.
Yeah, and even to the point, like, she purposely, I mean, she always bakes cakes. She didn't bake one while I was there until towards the end of it, because she physically probably was seeing how much I was eating anyway, and she was like, that's not great. So I'm not going to fuel it.
But it's also hard because you ever have times when you enjoy yourself afterwards and then someone's like, are you sure? Mm-hmm. Yeah, I am.
That one stresses me out a
I
lot.
think that's a general bodybuilding thing, though.
Yeah.
When people look at what I eat and then they go, well, you're not a real bodybuilder. I was like, believe me, mate. We all do enough. But just because you bodybuild, you know, there's a significant period of time, that time that you're in prep, where you have to be, like, super on the point.
Yeah.
But around that, it is a balance. Like, so your post-show is a balance. When people are just kind of like, you throw yourself in the bin and then you just have to stay there. And then when they come out post-show, I think that's why so many people sometimes reverse badly, because it's like a rebellion against what you've just done.
Yeah.
Which you're very proud of what you've just done.
Yeah.
But you're also kind of like, well, I was so consistent for 20 weeks.
I remember saying, I might have said it to other people. I think I might have said it to you. And I was like, I'm going to have this, and I don't even care because I've done this. And I was
like justifying it.
Yeah, you don't need to. That's not. But again, like, everyone's having these same things. Like, it's very, it is extremely normal. Now, obviously, something I want to highlight is how did your coach structure your post-show? Because this is going to be different for all three of us.
Yeah.
And I think it's obviously something that quite important to highlight because everyone's coach is different. And also, how did you feel from that as well?
So with my coach, the first thing obviously to happen was she pushed my food right up.
Yeah.
I completely trust Amy with my meal plan. So
Yeah.
I'm like, you write it, I'll eat it.
Yeah,
I don't
tell
know
me
what
what to
calories
do.
I'm on.
Yeah.
I have no idea what macros I'm on. She just gives me my food, I eat it, done. So the first thing I noticed obviously was my food went straight up. I don't know, it felt significantly more than what I'd been eating the entirety of prep, but then anything will, I think, post prep, you know,
Yeah.
you get like 10 grams extra of rice and you're buzzing. Like, so yeah, the first thing to go up was food. Cardio came straight down. I think I was only doing maybe like 40 minutes a week at that point. So like dramatically different
Yeah.
compared to
Oh
like
my
the
God,
90
anything
minutes
to
a day
breathe, yeah.
that I was doing. So that was really nice. And she only wanted me training like 3 days a week. So training dropped right down. She was like, reps in reserve, you know, just slowly build yourself back up. And a lot of that is damage control because you have dieted hardcore for,
Yeah.
I mean,
It's
I
a
think
lot
by
on
the
your
end
body.
of prep, I'd dieted for like 5-6 months nearly.
Yeah.
So it was, you know, you don't realize how much stress you've kind of put on your body until you
Hugely.
come out of it. And then it was kind of during that reverse as well, like a lot of niggles that I didn't necessarily realize I had started to come to the surface.
Your body, isn't it crazy how your body just kind of is like, oh, we're just going to get through this. And then
Yeah.
suddenly you rest and it's like, bing.
It's literally like
Everything
you're
goes
in
wrong.
fight
Yeah.
or flight for however many weeks. And then as soon as you kind of decompress and that stress starts to then come off the body, that's when you're like, oh,
I'm a little bit broken.
yes. And there was a lot going on post show. So we just sort of very, very slowly built back up to a new training program and a new split because obviously I had weaker areas based on judges' feedback that I needed to bring up. So before we kind of dove straight into that, it was just more of a recovery phase. And I'd say that lasted probably a little bit longer than we intended it to. So the ballpark was around 4 weeks. I think it lasted
Yeah.
about 6 or 7, just because my body just was not
The thing
recovering.
is, if your body's wanting it,
battered.
it obviously needs it as well.
Exactly.
And there's no point in pushing yourself into an off season and a proper growth season unless your body's in the right position to do it.
Exactly.
Because it's not going to be happy then.
And I'd even say now, 17 weeks post, I'm still not in the perfect position for an off season. I'm just not, and I accept that. But I've got a lot of injuries that I'm dealing with at the
And
moment.
there's time.
Exactly.
Like, and this is why I always am like, when people say they do back-to-back seasons, I'm thinking, how? Because it took 14 to nearly 20 weeks to be in the best position possible. And even now, I'm only now feeling like, okay, yeah, let's go. Like, the thought of now going into a prep.
And going back into prep now.
Like,
Yeah.
like that just baffles me. And I think, obviously, I think people can do it, and obviously short off seasons, like, it is possible, but equally, like, I find that give your body like that
Yeah.
time.
I have done a shorter off season. So from my 2020 shows to my 2021 shows, I think I had 5 months off season. And the approach to that was to try and put on as much tissue as we can in 6 months. But we all know, as a natural athlete,
It takes ages.
it's not going to be a huge amount. I don't think I put on any tissue. I just put on a lot of fat. So then to pull that off for the next 21 weeks, I was struggling. Like I
And
really,
do you
really
think
struggled.
that's why you struggled more in that second season?
Yeah. But also that second season as well, I was doing my masters. I was working 2 part-time jobs and also doing my PT qualification. So
Oh my gosh.
I was just juggling too much, and I think that was a huge factor in why that prep was so much harder.
Yeah.
But also I had so much unnecessary body fat that I was trying to pull off.
Yeah, and that's the thing with off season, like you want it to be productive, which I guess like I'm like I think it's like 22 or something weeks post show, and we're just doing a mini cut now, but it's purely just to there's nothing major, but we're just tidying things up so then we can go into back into being productive to actually put on the most tissue possible. Whereas I think a lot of people just push and push and push and push and push and push, and also maybe don't manage, like, you know, some people say about dirty bulk and stuff, and treat it a little bit like that. And I think it's harder because the more excess fat you gain, the more you've got to get it off. Like, you've only got to bring it back off again, which I think is tough.
But it's interesting to see, like, but I mean, like, a lot of the people, especially in this gym, are coached by John. Like, everyone's coached by John in this gym. But it's really interesting seeing, like, all of the different coaches' approaches and
it's really interesting
how different everyone does it. And I mean, what I'm doing is obviously very different to what John does with you guys. And it's cool to see. And it just goes to show that, like, there is literally no one size fits all.
No, and also every individual is different to how their composition changes. Like, someone might put on, like, they might put on lean tissue anyway and not actually put on as much excess fat. Like, do you know what I mean? So you can never truly know, even if someone had the same plan, like, how it's gonna come out on that individual is going to be entirely different.
Yeah, no, it's so true.
But how did you find the structure of your post show? Because obviously you were just saying, obviously you kind of was like, no, don't talk to me.
So this is where my part, for the first time in my life, is probably going to be really short, because I didn't do what my coach said for 12 weeks.
Love that.
Yeah. And then I literally did it for about 4 weeks and then moved to John.
It's hard.
Yeah.
But then did you then realise that was the right decision and then you moved over? Or
I needed someone to kick me in the arse.
Okay.
Because the problem that I had, and it's no fault of the coach, is that he is 300 miles away.
Yeah.
So he's not watching me. He can't see what I'm doing.
Yeah.
I forgot to send my check-in pictures. I would say that I did something I didn't. And yeah, I ran myself.
I cannot picture you being like this.
Yeah, I ran myself into the ground. But then at the same time,
tough.
I came out of that season, and then everything else, like you were saying, of struggling, of doing everything at the same time, I had...
Well, oh my God, you were so busy.
I tried to have 6 weeks prior to the show off of work, like of just my day job, and that's it. That didn't work. And then the only thing that happened is when I came post-show, everyone just came back and they were just like, Emily, I need this, I need this, I need this. So I got really busy again, and then I was kind of like...
You were probably putting yourself in the bin a little bit more because you were so focused on everyone else.
Yeah, and then it was just one of those things where, like, sometimes John would see me in the gym and he'd just look and he'd just be like... I love him to pieces. And he'd just be like, you're not planning that, are you? And I was like, no, I just want to do it. And he was like, well, he's like, what's the point of you having a coach then? And I was just, and he would just ask those questions that I was just kind of like...
He's very good at planting seeds in your head.
Yeah, and I was like, I just really need to think about it.
Hang on a minute.
And it's even like now, like, my check-in's on a Tuesday.
Yeah.
And if I haven't sent over all of the stuff by Monday evening, because he knows I do it on Monday evening, and I only just do my photos on Tuesday morning, he's there.
Yeah.
And he's like, I'm expecting this tonight. And I'm like...
And the thing is, you know, you can't say anything because you're going to see him in it. So you can't hide.
Yeah, like, you can't hide. I mean, he keeps me more accountable in a different sense that Warren did.
Yeah.
Warren was kind of like... I was his first athlete. I was the first person that he took to stage. It was all a massive learning curve for both of us. And then afterwards, I was just kind of like, that's done. I need to focus on this now. Because obviously, as most people know, because if they've listened to the last podcast, Emerge Elite grew so much.
And all the jumpers that we have got on today.
Shameless plug.
Like, plug it.
Everything changed for me because it was like, it just exploded.
Bigger.
And then, like, my entirety of my business, this way it's structured, the way that I need to turn up more, I'm still a one-man band. I know that you help me out a lot, Jack helps me out a lot, and, you know, like, if I ask anyone to help me out, they are there. But it's still a one-man band, and when you're running two businesses, a day job, you know, trying to do bodybuilding at the same time, the bodybuilding was the last thing I was thinking about.
Yeah.
And then when I moved to John was kind of like, well, he was like, I'm not letting you on stage if you don't keep to the plan, and I want to get on stage again.
Yeah.
So now it's just a, you know,
it bumps back up onto that priority list.
Yeah. And I just needed someone that if he sees me in the gym and I'm not doing it right, he just pulls me to the side and just goes, come here.
He's a sneaky one when you're training. He just jumps in and you're like, hang on a minute, I'm now going to die on this set, but okay.
Yeah, and it's just like, he's not even looking at you, but he is looking at you, and I'm just there in the corner doing like chest flies, just like,
I know you've got my your BDI on me.
Yeah, but he's not looking at you. He's training another client.
And I think from what I experienced with post-show, coming out of it, I stuck to everything that I possibly should. But I found it with John, he actually, obviously, as expected, there is some like immediate weight gain that your body needs, that I think a lot of people forget about. Like, you're not supposed to come out of having like being so restricted to eating an off-plan meal and not expect anything to happen. Like, your body actually needs it because it needs everything that it's refeeding with. So he was quite happy for that initially, and he was sort of spoke me through a lot of that. Okay, now we want to, the rate of gain per week should slow down, and then you want to sort of edge it. And I really struggled with knowing what was that the right amount of weight gain? Was it not? And obviously it was just he gave me the confidence every time, but we still, I think the most helpful thing for me was sticking with structure, like keeping to what we had, and then any struggles, communicating it. If there was food focus, okay, tell him in your check-in. And there was some adjustments I kept in cardio. I think I didn't train for the week after. I think I might have popped into the gym like once or twice, and then after that, like, sessions picked up a little bit more. Okay, then we were picking up a more formal structure. Then, okay, we had another break, like deload, still as bodies like breathing. And then we pushed into off season properly. And we completely changed program because your body's still used to it. Just kind of wants to move a little bit, I think, a little bit afterwards. Like how you said you dropped training right down.
Yeah.
And it probably just was like, okay, I know I'm moving, it's a bit boring, but it actually feels quite good to keep a little bit of that structure in.
Yeah, 100%.
Along with obviously some refeeds, and I had some events, but I tried not to plan too much. I think that's the hardest thing, because if you book and book and book, it's so easy. Because I remember when I came out of my second shoe, I booked everything. I was like, yeah, I'm free. Call me for anything. Breakfast, lunch, dinner, I'm there.
Yeah.
I think, like you were saying earlier, though, like when you come out of that prep, you notice other people have an expectation of you to eat.
Yeah.
And it kind of adds to the pressure a little bit. Like, I remember when I was sort of coming to the end of my prep and this person was asking me for dinner, this person wanted to go for breakfast, you know, my mum was like, oh, can I come over and cook you a roast dinner? And I was just like, can people please, and like my clients as well, bless their hearts, but like, were coming to our sessions for me to PT them, but they've come with like a batch of brownies that they've baked, and I was like, it's like that obligation to then consume it, and you're just like, oh, like I love it,
I think
but
that's
it's
hard.
stressful.
Like, we had extra treats in the house and stuff, and I baked, but I was just powering it off to everyone else, because I was like, I'll have one, and then everyone else, like, but also coming out of show, like, there are things that you can have here and there, which are also okay and not going to kill you, but I really struggle with that, because obviously on prep, that's nothing.
Yeah.
Like, all of those are like banished. So having a biscuit, I was like, oh my God, like, John's going to kill me. And he was like, why are you so stressed?
It's a biscuit, you're fine.
But then it was the struggle of, where does that stop? Because you can, if you listen to it enough, keep going.
Yeah.
And it's just highlighting those sorts of thoughts and feelings. Like, all three of us have had these struggles, and it's completely normal, but it's communicating the most. And also, it is an extreme sport, so the extremes coming out of it are going to be as extreme.
Yeah.
And I think
going
people
into
forget
a
that.
prep and coming out of a prep is the same level of extreme,
Yeah, hugely.
just different components.
Yeah.
And that's it.
And most people just think, oh, it's just once you've done the prep, you're fine.
Yeah.
Whoa, like, that's not even half the journey. Like, you know, you've got so much ahead, but just take it day by day, and nothing's wrong. And if you're uncomfortable, or if you have had those periods of being like, I feel all over the place, it's temporary.
Yeah.
Like,
I think a good thing for me was we got really close, and obviously we got close because we were all in a season, and I came out first, and then I was like the cheerleader. And I was like, okay, I'm going to go to your show, and I'm going to drive you here, and I'm going to do this. And it actually helped me keep accountable to myself, because I was like, I could appreciate where you were.
Through the
Because it's like when we went to Wales.
Yeah.
You were stressing, about bringing things, and I was like, just put it in my car. If we don't need it, we don't need it.
I packed so much.
Emily took up the car. I have an SUV, and there was 4 of us,
Yeah, that was
and I
four
had
of us.
one little bag.
I had so much.
Yes.
I was like, but what if I need it?
Yeah, but we did that. But
And
then
I
it
think
was like,
the process of each other,
yeah,
it's amazing. And even though people say bodybuilding's a really lonely sport, I haven't found that at all.
No.
Especially when you're in an environment like PAG as well. Like it's second to none, and so many people competing this coming year as well. And it's using each other and using people's experiences. And this was one of the reasons why I wanted to do this.
Yeah.
More than anything else, because it's understanding what others are going through, but also those similarities. Because when someone's like, oh, you feel rubbish too? Cool, let's be in this together. And when you talk about it, it makes you feel so much better.
Yeah.
It's like anything,
It's like,
really, isn't it?
Like little things like, so we're both on a mini cut, but my low days are more than yours. And I was struggling just to get volume in. And you just sent me through and you were like, just make something like this and bang, 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 bang. And I just went to M&S on the way home or something like that and just grabbed it. And I was just like, thank you.
And it's making the most of what you can and like trying to not stress about too much, because obviously it's bodybuilding, we love it because it's the sport, and even though yes there are struggles along the way, like you also want to remember why you're doing it and why you're putting yourself through this.
Well, yeah.
More than anything else,
Because otherwise there is no point.
no, yeah. And communication with your friends, with your family as well. Like you said, you've just got to communicate. If did you have to say to your friends, clients, family, look, just let me breathe a little bit?
With obviously my partner Morgan, he bodybuilds himself, he preps himself, so
Who was on the pod?
it was so nice. It's so nice to be in a relationship where I don't have to explain anything, like we get it.
He just understands.
We're in it together. My family, they get it.
Yeah.
The first couple of times I prepped, I think they were kind of
It's an adjustment for them.
struggling with it.
Yeah.
But my mum gets it now, and obviously, as you guys know, my mum lives in Ireland. So her coming over and me being on prep and not being able to go out for dinners, and she's staying with me, but I'm cooking my own food, and she's like kind of preparing meals herself, and like the guilt that I felt for that. But my mum just sat me down one night and she was like, I don't want you to even worry about that. I don't want you to panic about that.
And
She
also,
was
it's
like,
not
"You're
about that, it's
doing
about the
your
company.
thing." Exactly.
And it's the same as like social occasions, on prep, coming out of prep when you have to still be a little bit more mindful. It's just communicating those things, and ultimately it's the company and the friendships and and the relationships that you want to make the most of.
Yeah.
Like food, is a bonus. We all like going out for dinners, but they're not going anywhere as well. And it's just communicating the things that you need to. Like I remember my mum really struggled with my patience towards the back end of prep. Now everyone says I can't pitch you like that. It was only with my family when I'd get to the end of the day and I just said, just bear with me.
Yeah.
Just give me, like, I think it was like 5-6 weeks. I was like, and then when I came out the first show, Mum was like, oh my God, here we go again for the second one. And I said again, it's temporary, like you will have me. It's just kind of deal with it. And as soon as I'd come in the kitchen, they'd be like, run away from the kitchen.
I think the biggest growth for me was 100% my mum.
Yeah.
Like I've never, like me and my mum are close anyway.
Yeah.
But like to watch her go through this with me was eye-opening, because I mean you got to meet her, you all got to meet her on my
Absolute
show.
legend.
And it was the fact that like we've got a really cute picture together, but I don't really post it anywhere because it's basically my butt.
It's you like talking to her, looking
We're just
at her,
talking and we're just holding hands, and it's really, really cute because she was like, it all makes sense now.
Yeah. The penny
she was
drops.
Like, and she was like, I'm so proud of you. She was like, I don't know if I could be more proud of you. And I was like, I'm in a bikini. That's all I do.
And I remember, I think it was like a few days out, there was like a heated moment at home, shall I say. But then on the day of show, my parents hugged me and we were almost all in tears.
Yeah.
Like my dad hugged me and I was like, I'm gone.
But
like,
once they see you on stage, that's when, like you said, the penny drops.
Yeah.
Because my
and
mum,
I remember you saying that
on
to me before I had it.
my first prep, she really struggled. She was like, "You're being so mean. I can't understand it." And I was like, "Mum, I'm sorry," but like, just trying to constantly reiterate to her that it is temporary and I'm not going to be like this forever.
Yeah.
But then she actually saw me compete for the
And it
first
gives
time.
them the
She was
confidence
like,
in knowing what you're doing is sane.
Yes.
Like,
yeah.
I think
because
that's the
they're
whole
like,
thing
oh,
around it as well, because my mum has never really visited me down here. And it was the first time she got to meet my world. And she was just like, this is insane. She was like, you are all so similar and driven and passionate.
Yeah.
And she was like, you found a group of people that understand you. And I was just like, this is insane to hear it from my mother.
Yeah.
yeah.
Because it was just kind of like, you know, I'm very bad with communication with my parents, because usually when I call them up, they go, what's going on? Because normally I call them up with a problem. So obviously in prep, as you said, you know, like your mum's trying to communicate with you and you're just kind of like, I can't deal with
I
this.
have no space for this.
Yeah.
I just
feel
don't
horrible.
call. And my mum was like, I was on prep for 20 weeks. Before the show, I forgot to tell my mum where I lived. Right?
Prep brain.
So
It's a thing.
she didn't know where she was going or anything like that. And she was like, I don't mean to bother you, but, you know, can you just please let me know this? And then that was when I realised, and the penny dropped, that I hadn't spoken to any of my parents for about 12 weeks. And I was just like, wow. I was like, this is terrible. But then I was looking at my communication in general, and then I was just like,
It goes in the bin in prep as well.
yeah. And it's like, it's such a good
Hugely.
growth period, though. So anyone who's gone through a prep and then come out of a prep, it is good to look back on it,
Yeah.
to see those little things. Like for me now, I'm not like some of John's clients where they're consistently telling him how they feel and stuff like that. John knows if I'm not talking to him, I'm feeling okay.
Yeah.
When I'm not feeling okay, I get very sharp.
Yeah.
And if I'm feeling great, like really, really good, he'll just get like a selfie. And it'll just be like, or a weight, me with a weight, just being like the 15-kilogram dumbbell walking lunges. I just sent him a picture of them and just was like, owned it.
Smashed it. And it's just being real with yourself and to everyone else
Yeah.
around you, and not like playing pretend. Like everything is valid. Like there's nothing that isn't worth communicating or talking about, or even writing down if you don't want to tell anyone, because everyone has different ways of dealing with it. But ultimately, the biggest person you want to communicate the most with is your coach.
Yeah.
Because any problems, they're gonna want to know if you're not doing something. If you've got a niggle, the quicker they know, the quicker they can overcome the problem with you.
Yeah. This doesn't also go for just bodybuilders.
No.
This goes like across the board.
And
I am not a coach. You know, I'm not a coach. This is not my job. This is your job. And I see it so much because I work closely with you on different things.
Yeah.
It is amazing to see how much more you get out of someone if they trust you.
Yeah.
And if they can communicate with you,
Yeah.
because you feel comfortable, then it's not just someone telling you to do something. There is a reason behind it,
yeah.
and you feel more connected to it. Like
Hugely.
because it's a team.
Yeah,
You are a
hugely.
team,
You
whether
can't
you're
do it without
Yeah.
the other person. Can't do it. Like you can't do it without your clients. Your client can't do it without you.
Yeah.
It's-
So whether you're a bodybuilding coach taking someone to stage, or you are getting someone prepped for their, I don't know, summer holidays with their
Yeah.
kids, it's the same thing.
you've got to trust it. You've
Yeah.
trust the process.
Trust the process.
And on that, I think like the biggest thing for me was I never once thought I wasn't lean enough. Now I hear a lot of people say that. I don't know how you guys felt. I personally didn't have this because I trusted John. You've got to trust them that they're going to take you to that place, to the stage, to the shoot, to whatever. And if you question that, they're probably not the coach for you. And like you need to, if you do what they say, you know, in theory, that should get you to exactly where you need to be. If you're questioning that or not doing that, how are you going to know where you're going to get to? I think is a massive thing, whether it's for the stage, shoot, holiday, whatever. Like you have to believe in yourself and also what your coach is sort of telling you. I don't know if you have anything to add to that.
Yeah, no, I would definitely agree with that one. But for me as well, it wasn't like entirely my coach's fault in the past. Maybe if I have
and
struggled.
also I think as well,
but-
it's everything's you learn so much more about yourself.
Oh my
About
God, yes.
what coach like person you want to work with. It's different, and it's not meaning to say that anything's been wrong in the past. It's just you learn from what you want. like differently or
Yes.
more of?
Yeah.
And, you know, I found the same. So many people questioned when I moved over to John, and I was like, I'd preach Courtney till the day I die,
Yeah.
because I would never have learned so much from him to be in the position to meet John, to be with, like, so I think as well, like, there's never, it's a process of understanding.
I'm exactly like that with Warren, because like obviously the changes that I made with Warren was not out of Warren's fault. Like I ruptured my Achilles, and that man alongside Connor single-handedly brought me from not being able to walk to getting to stage. I'm never going to
incredible.
I'm never going to be able to take that away from him. You know, like, and I'll always preach him to the. It was the hard. You know how hard it was for me to have that conversation with him, to say that I'm moving to John.
Oh, you were so stressed.
I was so stressed for about 3 days before I finally
you
booked
loved
it.
It's not because you didn't want to.
It's a hard conversation
It's really
to have, though.
hard.
It's so. I remember when I had that conversation with Abby, and I was like, "It's not."
I remember you telling me about it. You were stressed about that as well.
I was so stressed, and she was just like, "No, yeah, I totally agree with what you're saying." And I was like, "Oh," and I was in my head, and I think that's probably my own kind of like feelings about
We all
rejection
do
and
it,
things like that.
yeah.
But like, I would never be upset if a client turned around to me and went, "I'm going to explore other options." I'd be like, "Look, if you feel that's what's going to benefit you, then go for it."
Yeah.
Why could I not turn around to Abby and be like,
hard.
"I think I need to try a different
It's
approach"?
like a breakup.
It is.
But
It
again,
really
breakups
is.
aren't bad.
No,
It just means
no, they're
you're
not.
moving to the best person. And the same goes for coaches and for anyone
100%.
out there. Like, also, if you are struggling, like, communicate that and do something about it. You don't want to drag yourself through a prep or an off season in something you're uncomfortable with, because it's not going to set you up for your following season or whatever you choose
And see,
to do.
that's where
moving
I knew where I was.
Yeah.
I knew that I needed to step up to another level. And unfortunately, Warren wasn't going to take me there.
Yeah.
But he was just like, I am so proud of you. I'm proud of everything that you've done over the last, not just this season, but like the last 4
my
years.
gosh,
You've
yeah.
defined all the odds of a person. And I was just like,
It's emotional.
it's so emotional.
And they become like, you're so close with them.
Well,
Like,
he was more consistent than most of my relationships.
I know,
I
I've
spoke
been
to
with
him
John
more.
for 2 years next week. I was like, John, it's our 2-year anniversary.
It's like I spoke more to my coach than I probably ever did with most of my partners. And it was like literally like you get so connected to someone. And it was just like when I was like, I'm gonna move, and he was just like, okay, that's absolutely fine. And then I went up to John and I was like, I'm really emotional. And he's like, well, welcome to the team.
Yeah. And I think that nicely concludes things as well. Like, I feel like we've been on a journey through this entire pod. So obviously, I hope some topics within that have resonated with you, or to all that who is listening. And also, even if you're not bodybuilding stage prep, there are so many things that cross over with shoots, whether it's for holiday, post-diet phase. Like, yes, we are talking about the extremes, but equally there are so many things that can be taken away from it, because I think so many people have those times with relationships, with families, around when they're really pushing for something and pushing for a goal. Like, if you want it, go get it and trust yourself.
Oh yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
The 3 Ps.
The 3 Ps. So yeah, thank you so much for joining me, guys. It was so nice to have 2 other guests on. And there will, I imagine, be so many more topics similar on bodybuilding journeys, and we've all had different experiences, and it's been great to talk about that. I mean, we could have grabbed pretty much everyone from the gym
We could have
to
had
come
a
into
whole
this.
bustle of people.
Yeah. So obviously, if any more questions have come about from this pod, like, or you want to reach out to any of us, obviously I'll put all of our details below from the YouTube, and also when I post it onto socials anyway. But yeah, thanks for joining, and hopefully we'll see you on the next pod.
Hi everyone, Supergirl here, and I am a super fan of SMJ Media Group. They provide support for local businesses, charities and events, and of course create fun content for all of you. If you enjoy our content and would like to help support us, please go to buymeacoffee.com/SMJ Media Group and buy us a coffee.